teachers, Karen Fabian here, founder of Bare Bones Yoga, and thanks so much for taking a moment to watch this YouTube video. So my specialty is anatomy and helping teachers transform their teaching by mastering the topic and the subject of anatomy. Because when you do that, you can confidently share it in your cues and your sequences and just enthusiastically answer all those questions you get from your students. So today we're going to be taking a look at the anatomy of back bends. I'm sure you're teaching a whole bunch of back bends in your classes, poses like upward dog or like camel pose, bridge, wheel, postures like dancer's pose. There are a whole host of postures that involve the back bend. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that most of the day your students are in spinal flexion. Spinal extension is typically not something that's part of our everyday movement. Let's face it, it's not like you're going into the kitchen and bending backwards to get something out of your cabinet. There just aren't a lot of activities of daily movement where we're integrating the use of the muscles that help us bring the spine into extension. So let's first take a look. If we look at, of course, the back where the spine is, we've got muscles that align the spine that keep us erect, and they also, when they concentrically contract, take us into that backward movement, that spinal extension. Now, of course, there are various degrees of this. If we're an upward dog and we're very, very tall, that would be more spinal extension than if we were in low cobra with the elbows slightly bent. However, in both scenarios and in all your back bends, the erector spinae, or the spinal extensors that run parallel with the spine, those are the muscles that are going to engage when you do a back bend. Now, because when you do a back bend, your hips are also moving into extension, we need to also give mention to the muscles that bring the hips into extension. So that's muscles like the gluteus maximus, one of the three muscles of the glutes, followed by the hamstrings, which are the synergist to the glute max. So, as you're taking your students into back bends, let's say for an upward facing dog, I can come on down here and do up dog. What you can ask them to do is you can ask them to squeeze around their sitting bones, and that will help contract the gluteus maximus a bit more. If you have them do something like camel pose, you could have them do the same thing. Squeeze the sitting bones, press the hips forward. As they press the hips forward, they're bringing the hips into extension more. One thing to notice, especially with something like camel, students will tend to just take the head back. In that case, the only portion of the spine they're taking into extension is the cervical spine. The thoracic spine tends to be a bit stiffer, and so sometimes it's hard for them to get movement there. So one cue you can give them is to just keep the gaze forward as they bend through the lower aspect of the spine, the thoracic and the lumbar, and then look up as the final piece, bringing the cervical spine into extension last. So I hope you found this helpful. Back bends are a wonderful thing to include in your teaching because it brings the students into kind of an opposite movement than they're doing most of the day, spent hunched over their phones and computers. It's helpful and important for you as a yoga teacher to know the muscles that are in action, and that will help inform the cues you give. If you're looking for more information like this, please just visit my website, barebonesyoga.com, and you'll find a whole bunch of downloads right on my homepage that'll help you out with sequence building and tips for teaching. Thank you so much for watching, and namaste.